도제 창이 companionship. Now, when you do these limitless contemplations, I want you to really concentrate on them because they really give you everything about karma and the imprints and all of that. So it's very important, these prayers, and try and use this little prayer for yourselves at home, those that aren't doing too many prayers. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Senjendam je dewatang dewe jutang denba jutik. Dungal tang, dungal chichu tang trawajitik, dungal mepe dewa tampat tang mindra wajitik, nearing chak tang ni tang trawe tang nom chimpo la ne pa jutik. So today, all of you will be going back to the tug of war between the habitual karmic imprints and your awakened path. And but in part 2, whatever you want to say or whatever you want to ask, I'm happy, must be done like that. It really, really must be done in that way. So I'm going to start off with the beautiful story of the Hopi Indians. And I think it actually says everything we need to say, we need to do. Okay, the creation said, I want to hide something from the humans until they are ready for it. It is the realization that they create their own reality. The eagle said, give it to me, I will take it to the moon. The creator said, no, one day they will go there and find it. The salmon said, I will bury it on the bottom of the ocean. The creator said, no, they will go there too. The buffalo said, I will bury it on the great plains. The creator said, they will cut into the skin of the earth and find it even there. Grandmother, who lives in the breast of Mother Earth and who has no physical eyes but sees with spiritual eyes, said, put it inside of them. And the creator said, it is done. Okay, so it's very important, that story of the Hopi Indians, because it actually says everything that we need to know. Put it inside them. It was always inside us. There was never a creator, and they called it creation seed, not creator, which is very interesting. Creation seed. So I think that we've got to start discovering it, especially with what's going on in the world now. And the second quote I want to give is by a Tisha who did some very beautiful Buddhist teaching. But he said, know that there are 3 types of people: inferior, mediocre, and superior. The inferior are said to be those who by any of the various means strive for their own benefit to merely attain the pleasures of samsara, the wheel that goes round and round. The mediocre are said to, the mediocre are said to be those who turn their back on samsara's pleasure and also refrain from evil deeds, yet merely pursue a personal peace. And the superior are those who are said to be those who, through understanding their own suffering, deeply desire to completely end the suffering of all other beings, which is important. Some people are really having a hard time staying on. I know Teresa Berners 3 times she's trying to come on, but she gets bumped off every time. I don't know why. So I think that's very important, because if we've got the motivation of the end of what we're seeing there, it's very, very important that we see suffering and we really want to end suffering on this planet. And then I want to give you this little little story, which some of you might have heard before, but I think it really is the most important story for karmic imprints. I'll go over the things we did last time afterwards and give you a little summary. But one day, a man saw an old lady stranded in the dim light of day, needed help. Needed help, and he stopped in front of her Merc and got out, his old Pontiac still sputtering. It was in America quite clearly. Even with a smile, she was worried. It was late, but no one had stopped. Would he hurt her? He didn't look so safe and looked poor and hungry. He could see her fear standing out in the cold. He knew how she felt. He said, I'm Brian Adams, here to help you, ma'am. Why don't you wait in the car where it's warmer? Well, she had a flat tire, bad enough for her. He crawled under the car, skinned his knuckles, got dirty and sore hands, but changed the tire. She rolled down the window, told him she was passing through from St. Louis and couldn't thank him enough. She asked him what she owed him, but he knew this wasn't a job, just his usual helping someone in need, as he has often been helped, and he did that often. He told her if she really wanted to pay him back, that she could give assistance to someone in need and think of him when she did. When she drove off, despite his depressing, when he drove off, despite his depressing day he had, he really felt good about it. He then stopped at a dingy looking restaurant to bite, warm up, and then get home. The waitress came over and gave her a clean towel to wipe her wet hair. She had a sweet smile, though she'd obviously been on her feet all day, and she noticed the waitress was very pregnant, but still kept up a kind and friendly manner. The old lady wondered how someone with so little in her condition, obviously desperate for the work, could be giving to her. Then she remembered Brian Adams. After the meal, she paid with $100 bill, and the waitress went to get her change. She was gone when the waitress got back. The waitress wondered where she'd gone, then noticed something on the napkin. There were tears when she read it. Someone helped me out like I'm helping you. If you really want to pay me back, don't let this chain of love end with you. Under the napkin were 4 more $100 bills. Well, she had to clear the tables and fix all for the next day, but she couldn't stop thinking of what had happened. How could this lady have known how much she and her husband needed it? With baby due next month, it was going to be a very, very tough time. As she lay next to her sleeping husband, whom she knew was so worried, she gave him a soft kiss and whispered in a low voice, everything is going to be all right. I love you, Brian Adams. The guy who helped the woman, in case you forgot the name in the beginning. It's a very beautiful, interesting story there, because it really tells you about karmic imprints on a relative level, always on a relative level, that what goes around comes around. That's a beautiful, heartwarming story. But sometimes I can tell you stories of really negative things that happen to people, and just as much on that relative level they do. And finally, before I give you any of the background, I just want to do 2 things. One from Drupon Rinpoche, who said, while I do sometimes worry what will become of me after I die, it doesn't trouble me too badly. What worries me the most is wasting the time I have now before I die. Each day is an opportunity that we can never retrieve if we let it go to waste. To not seize the opportunity of each day, to not do all we are capable of doing and thus let life go to waste, is what we should be really afraid of. And finally, when I give you all my, I've still got plenty more, but still this one I want to give you as well today, because it sets the background and tone for what I'm saying. This is the story of a man who'd been sentenced to 25 years of hard labor. He was shackled to the handle of an immense heavy wheel built into the wall, and from morning to night, he had to turn this heavy wheel under under all the guards watching him. The days and years passed slowly, and during these many hours, as he felt his muscles growing weary and the bones of his back breaking under the stress, he would wonder just what it was that he was accomplishing with his hard work. Maybe the wheel was part of a mill and was grinding grain into flour. Maybe he was rotating something like a potter's wheel, or maybe generating some kind of energy that was being used to activate some kind of machine and help many, many people. When the long, long sentence was finally completed and the shackles were removed from the sinewy arms of a broken old man, the first thing he did was to go round to the outside of the wall to see what it was that he'd been laboring at least to have some peace of mind for these 25 years. To his horror, he discovered there was nothing there, just a wheel in the wall, unattached to any lever or any gear. The man broke down in sobs. 25 years of hard labor, he wailed, and all for nothing. Had anybody benefited from it, man or beast, I could have accepted. But to have worked and suffered for nothing at all, this is unbearable. There can be no more profound distress or disappointment than for one's life to be pointless. Now, that is really, really a very important story from a lot of things. First of all, just the fact that he found that absolute wheel without anything on it is probably his own, because whatever he had 25 hard years of labor, he actually paid off whatever that karmic debt was, whatever was on the wheel, whatever was on the wheel of life, he actually managed to finish it and pay it back. So that was absolutely excellent. But also, do you know how many people on this planet turning wheels round and round? Samsara means the wheel of life that turns round and round and round. And most of it is pointless. The only things that are not pointless are when you change. When you change that wheel of life and you start really giving service, then you're changing a lot of things on it. But it's amazing because that story is really the story of our life. There's the beautiful wheel, the wheel of life, Bern, yeah. The wheel of life, which we'll talk about in a few moments, but it goes round and round. That is a beautiful one, Bern, but it's not a beautiful wheel. That's the point. This is a beautiful drawing of a not so nice wheel, okay? But something that we get into. So I think it's really, really important to look at what we are doing and to see, is it pointless? Am I taking my same imprints and redoing them over and over again in different places? Am I not getting the lesson? What is it that I'm doing? And I think clinging and attachment are maybe our most habitual imprints. And we are born into a desire realm, okay? So the wheel of life is continually imprinting and conditioning our stream of consciousness. And one day we have to wake up like that old man and say, how many times more am I going to turn the wheel in this relative life, which even when things are going well, there's inherent suffering. There's inherent suffering, because even when it's going well, it's all temporary, transient, and impermanent. And we need to see that tug of war between those habitual karmic patterns keep recurring even when we've mastered them. So sometimes even when you've got immense awareness, it's amazing, but they keep on coming, like our habit of distraction. You know, we are always allowing our minds to get distracted here, there, and everywhere. And me, who's done meditation for years and years and years and years, so often I am distracted. And it annoys me because that karmic imprint is in all our minds. We just get distracted with things all the time. or we fixate on things and we keep on doing it. And what we have to realize is sometimes when we become aware, I become aware if I'm being distracted. Sometimes when I'm saying prayers and my mind goes off in another direction, I'm horrified and I have to bring it right back to where I am, but I keep doing it still, even now. And when we wake up to knowing the truth of phenomena and ourselves, when we really know what we are made of and what phenomena are made of, the lies of our deluded perception from our deluded conditioning collapses. Only with intrinsic awareness, that's the only tool, it collapses. The collapse of the delusion of all the lies we told ourselves to protect us. So many lies. You know, you just got to listen to people. I was trying to point out to someone the other day about, I was looking at this situation and just seeing the whole wheel of life and the tapestry and what is repeated. And this person gave me the biggest mapola you've ever heard. And I just thought, okay, that's it. I've pointed it out. And if you don't want to listen, that's okay. You're just going to have to do that wheel another 10,000 times, or 20,000, or 1,000,000. I mean, we're not talking about one incarnation. We're talking about thousands and thousands of rebirths. So what is very important, I'll open it for your discussion. So if you've got a question, just write it down and ask in a moment. So what we're really looking at is the threefold, our nature, which is threefold, and always I bring it back to this. Because if we understand this, we understand everything. That we all have our essence. Our essence is unchangeable. It's always unchangeable. We just don't know it. But the essence, you can call it the God force. You can call it emptiness, which means it's independent. Our essence, which we all share no matter what circumstances we are, has a nature. And that nature is luminous and knowing and intrinsically aware. It knows everything. So when you're going through a terrible time, it knows exactly why you're going through that. It knows. The nature of the essence is knowing. Now, why do we research everything else but not that? When once we have the intrinsic awareness, we know why we're going through suffering. We know it so well. We can see it so clearly. And with that essence, the nature is luminous, clarity, absolutely knowing. And those two together create the energy to use in our life. Now, it's called unlimited manifestation of energy. Unlimited manifestation. It's never limited. We may feel as though we're limited in energy, but it's never limited. And the way the essence and the nature expresses itself is always pure. That's why we do the practices, because it teaches us that the way it manifests is pure. It's beautiful. It's Garden of Eden. It's pure lands. It's awakened nature. It's caring. It's compassion. It's beauty. The elements are not coarse. They're absolutely beautiful. Now, that's how it manifests itself. But if you look in the world right now, all of you are going to say, that's not true. So the essence and the nature, just look at this, killing, viruses, pandemics, people, all these terrible things, shooting, killing, murder, everything is in this planet right now, okay? So what went wrong? Actually, it never went wrong. We are just at the level where we can only perceive it through our own conditioning, which means we can't see the purity That's what the practices in Buddhism are just about. Bottom line, they're there so that you can see how the essence of the nature really creates it. So it says at the end of every prayer, you see all lands as Buddha lands, all sound as pure mantra, all energy as beautiful awakened energy, if we were seeing it correctly. But because we've closed ourselves off, because we haven't dealt with our karmic imprints, we see it in an ugly way. And in actual fact, that's what we're training ourselves. And last week, when I did everything, I started to say that we all have the karmic imprints in our liar consciousness. And I spoke a little bit about the different levels of consciousness, all of which your five sense consciousnesses, your mind consciousness, which then evaluates what your senses see and hear, and then the I consciousness, I, me, the klesha consciousness, which is always I want, I need, I this, I that, I'm going to protect myself. And then finally, the alaya consciousness, in which all the karmic imprints go in. Now, when we look at this, it just makes sense when you suddenly see that at death, all those levels, the 7 levels, die with you. There's nothing left, and people are panicked because they can't see anything that's really natural to them. So they faint and they don't see, they don't wake up to the real consciousness, the real primordial consciousness. They just see what they conditioned to. And the pure looks so crazy and looks so overwhelming, they can't see it anymore. So when we look at that, it's unbelievable because we can't see that pure level. And so we are all the time working with our ordinary consciousness, those 8 levels. And when we die, the 7 dissolve, and the 8th one, with everything you thought, heard, believed, acted on, goes with you. And that's called the wheel of life, where whatever body you've got, if your body is sick or your body is fat or your body's too skinny or it's full of all the ailments in the world, that's because of your body imprints, your body habitual imprints, which created the body you've got now. Not much you can do about it, but try and look after the body now. Try and change that. The speech, a lot of people, from speaking badly and harshly and all of that kind of thing, are born with difficult ailments in their speech. So the speech imprints, which are really your energy, your speech is how you use your energy, come out as your speech imprint in the next lifetime. And your mind imprint, how you used your mind, is what imprints for your mind right now. That's the mind you've got. So if you've got a mind like a sieve that can't even retain anything, it's because of how you used it before. Now, once you get all those imprints, they are part and parcel of your life. You can't really change the imprints, but when we'll go in a minute on that wheel of life again, you can change the future. You can change the present. You can't change what you came with, but you can change it over, which is really, really beautiful. And I have a beautiful quote from, just let me find it. I've got so many quotes for you and so many things for you. I just have to find it. Just give me 1 second. Here it is. The 12 links in the wheel of life show how karma works and how things appear in the world, how they appear. Doesn't mean how they appear is how they are. It's how they appear. Not only a primary cause for an effect to occur, but also secondary conditions and circumstances. The actions we take obviously influence the direction of our lives, and the 12 links of the wheel of life show how past, present, and future are linked in an interdependent way to each other. And also, the question of free will, which is always debated by people. People say, of course, human beings have got free will. They've got more free will than the animal kingdom has, because the animal kingdom, unless they're born a lion and get what they desire, but they don't have the ability to really logically think things through. But when we look at free will, which free will we actually have, and how much is our free will? We have a few little choices, but what I was talking about last time, the impelling consciousness, okay? Free will, we think we have, is largely an illusion, because our predispositions, our impelling consciousness, what we have used in our imprints, lead us to choose a particular course of action. Now think about that, because is that free will? Okay, is that actually free will? We've got to ask ourselves, yes, we have a bit of a choice. Should I take the right path or the left path? But mostly, as many of these great masters have taught us, our impelling consciousness decides for us. We don't have that. And also, as Namkhai Norbu says, karma is always something which belongs to the level of SEM, S-E-M-S, the human conditioned part of the mind, while pure presence, or Rigpa as it's called in Tibetan, your pure presence, your intrinsic awareness, lies beyond the limited functioning of the human part of the mind. So if we want to actually go to Rigpa, to that intrinsic awareness, we have to try and do the practices to stop the human mind from taking over all the time with its wants and its needs and its aversion. Sometimes you've got to say, it is what it is. And I need to face this, and I need to look in the mirror, and I need to see what created this. So what I want to do is, just let me think what else. I'll give you a few other things from last week as we go along. But basically, we were talking about the impelling consciousness, which is the seed that propels us, and the consciousness of the impelled result we were talking about, which leads us to the birthplace of that life once the conditions have come together. So those two seeds keep on going and keep on going and keep on going. And when we understand this, I was also talking last time about relative viewpoint, ultimate viewpoint. And the relative is simply the way we see things. The ultimate is the way really things are. So important to understand that difference. So let me open up to you. I want to do a little bit on coronavirus. I was freaked out about an article that I read. I want to talk about that in terms of imprints, karmic imprints, and the tug of war. And then, so I want to talk a little bit about coronavirus, and then we can first do a meditation and then talk about that, and then go on to the next level of the stuff I'd like to do with you. So any questions, any comments, you're really welcome. And no question is too simple or not okay, because everybody's got those questions. This is your chance. Because when I go to teaching maybe things on a different level, then I don't want to come back all the time to these. So I'm going to keep this going at this level for a little while. So comments or questions, you're very welcome.
Mel, I've got a question.
Go on, darling.
Morning. I want to ask you, I'm finding it presently very, very difficult, this one. And I'm fully aware of observing it, and I know about it. I know about it, but it doesn't stop me from doing what I do. I went and visited Mommy over the weekend, and my mom is now 97 years old, okay? The greatest...
Echo case disciple, just so you know that her mother is in her 97 years, she just watches Ekong Rinpoche and she just follows everything he says, which is glory, hallelujah, we're going to get her to the light when she goes.
So we had the most amazing conversation, and it was happy, sad conversation. It was a happy, sad conversation. And the greatest thing in our world, we all know, is loving. I don't want to use the concept called love. I want to use the action and activity called loving.
Love it.
Now, in that loving is a habitual tendency and a safe place on a samsaric level of that loving. There's nothing as wholesome as loving and feeling full from that loving. But Mommy and I have come to that part where we have discussed it quite openly, and it's painful, and we realize that this is the grasping of loving is the very essence of our suffering right now, both of us. And she turned around to me and she said, I'm so tired of mourning you. In other words, not letting go. And I started crying and I said, I feel exactly the same way. Now, that's grasping. That's the essence of grasping.
But what a beautiful conversation. You are so blessed that you can have that with your parent. But let's just go back to Lama Yeshe's comment to me when I was walking along the path with him one day, and I said, oh, well, if you would have fallen in love with a woman, you might have been tied to her today and not to your monkhood and your enlightened path. So he turns around and he goes, you don't know me. You know how determined he is. You don't know me. And then he goes, anyway, you in the West, you don't love, you possess. Now, it's so important, that statement, because the loving that you're talking about, the possessing, that I can't let go of you, I can't let you go because I love you too much, is where we discern the karmic imprint. Because how long can we want a person? I know somebody else who's also got an old father, who doesn't really want to let go. And it's really hard to let go. But this is where you learn in your intrinsic awareness that if, when they are gone, you look in your heart, because most people in that situation, without your knowledge and her knowledge, would just be waiting to join them again. If that was the person they loved most, they would just be waiting to join them. And of course, when you join them, they're not going to be the same. They're going to be a different form. You may join them, you may have other incarnations together, but you probably finished, because look at your conversation you've had. But when you look in your intrinsic awareness, let's say it was this cup, your intrinsic awareness, just to give an example, it's full. It's full of all the loving experiences of everything that you need. I know Kasturi often talks to me about children leaving at a young age and what you've got inside left of them. And I'm going to give you a story just now about that. But you know what? It's such an amazing thing because we've got enough. We've got enough of that person inside us. So every time we feel a yearning and a need to actually be with their physical presence, we just close our eyes and go inwards, and that intrinsic awareness in the cup holds everything that you need from that person. Can you all understand that? Linda, it really is. And that's the beautiful thing. And that doesn't mean you don't cry when you lose somebody or you go through a terrible bereavement for you. Of course, that's fine. But the point is, that's why he said we possess and not love. We want to keep our children with us. We want to keep everything with us. We want everybody to be here. And it's learning. I think during this COVID time, with people like me, you've got all your family, grandchildren, and all your everything overseas, none of them here. And now we can't even to them like it's terribly painful. But so what if it's painful? So what? Sometimes when the little ones in the UK don't want to talk to me, I simply say, when the au pair who's there says, sorry, Melanie, they don't seem to want to talk. I say, don't worry, I leave my machine on in their kitchen and I just watch what they're doing, fighting with each other, doing all their things. And I just watch them for a while and I say, now I've had enough, goodbye. Even if they're not communicating with me, I can see them, my heart is full and goodbye. What can you do? How must you go? Now we're getting 2 new babies in the UK, 2, and I can't go. Okay, so that's it. I'll have to do it via machines, via everything. And the little babies, when they're just born, is when I really like to give them all the mantras and all the stuff. And I like to talk to them long and deep. Well, what can I do? What must I do? There's just nothing to be done except to accept it. And that's what we have to do. And that's part of the karmic imprint, because I look at it and I say, what am I learning? I'm learning that nothing ever belonged to me. And it's not mine. And there never was anything that was mine. These are simply the travelers passing through the same road as me, maybe through my body. They got a chance to come into the world, but they're not mine. And that's the important lesson of the karmic imprint. Any other questions? Quick. You know what, guys? I've got so much to teach you, but you know what? I'm actually not going to rush and race through it. If we get through it, we get through it. I want you to be able to talk to me of things like Lindy's just said. It's important because you've got to put this really into practice if you want to really have a spiritual path that frees you in the end. So I don't care if we take another 2 sessions or whatever the case is. So any other questions or comments?
Mel, I have a question. You were talking earlier about the lies we've told ourselves and the effects that they have on us. I just wondered if you would speak a little bit more about that, because I almost have the impression that some of them are almost unconscious.
Yes, I agree with you.
And so it's quite difficult to work with them if we almost don't know we're doing them. Perhaps that sounds a little clumsy, but I just wanted a little more clarity on that.
You see, even in your relationships with your families, with your husbands, with your wives, with everything, we tell ourselves these deluded stories all the time, because maybe sometimes we want to impress people. Maybe we want people to think we've got everything the right way. You just watch people, even with this coronavirus.
Yes.
I listen to people's stories about this coronavirus. And I'm horrified. I'm horrified that people say there isn't even really a virus and there isn't even, and it's not serious. And I'm not having a vaccination because it's, I don't know what the effects are. And all these things, these are the lies we tell ourselves all the time. Or I'm just doing this, I'm just helping this person when we're not even helping them. We're only doing it for ourselves. Just these little lies. As I come on to things, I'll give you examples,
Thank you.
But the thing is, all the time we delude ourselves, even about death. How many people do I speak to that say, don't worry, I'll know what to do when I get there? I just want to say, will you? You would have known what to do in the golden age. You would have known what to do because you just went. You transferred from one high consciousness to another high consciousness, primordial consciousness to primordial consciousness. So yes, you didn't need to study and learn, but we are living in ordinary human consciousness with all these collective imprints, with karmic imprints that are collective in our families and everything. And we just delude ourselves. I mean, people actually have come to me. Some people have brought people to me when they've been diagnosed with final terminal cancers, you know, and they've come to me. And then I've said, we've talked about it, and I've said, listen, you know, even when you lose the body, the physical body, your mind still goes on, your consciousness still goes on. So right now, when you've got this limited amount of time, let's try and work with that consciousness. Now, do you know how many times I've heard people who didn't come back say to their friend who sent them or whatever, you know what, I'm too scared to talk about that because it'll bring my death on. That's such a good example, because people say, I don't want to talk about it because I'm talking about death, then it's going to come. What's so bad about death? When you've done what you need to do, it's just a transition from one state to another state. If we were awake, that's what it is. But that's the kind of lie we tell ourselves all the time. So I can fight and defy death, and I won't talk about it, and the Lord of death will go away kind of thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Those are those kind of deluded lies that we have all the time. I'll tell you lots. I'll give you lots of examples. And when we become aware, it all collapses. And when it collapses, it's not easy, because then you're sitting and saying, now what am I going to do? Then I say to people, now you're going to wake up. You've got no more options in your human consciousness. Just wake up to what you have to. I just can't explain it more than that, you know. Any other questions or comments or anything you want to know?
Melanie?
Yes, please.
Just a thought I want to share. My own experience with the death of my 2 children and so much of pain. Often people look at me and they think, no, 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 I want to stay far away from you. I don't want to catch what you have.
I mean, there's another lovely example, you know. And also, you know, when people like Kasturi lose 2 children, you've got no idea the deluded perceptions people have. Do you know that people cross the road so they don't have to meet people like Kasturi because they don't know what to say? I mean, all of you that have been through terrible bereavement know this, okay? Why don't people know what to say? Because they don't know how to be. They don't know how to comfort. All they have to do is say, I feel for you. I'm here for you. Please ask me if I can do anything for you. I'm crying with you. What else can you say? What else is there to say to clear your own imprints? But to avoid a person is absolutely that kind of thing. I don't know what to say. It's the most terrible thing, or maybe I'll catch it from her, you know, so I don't go. You don't have to know a lot to go to a bereaved person and say, I'm here. I feel for you. Nothing else. If there's anything I can do, I'm here. That's it. What else have you got to say? So let's do a little meditation quickly.
Can I just ask you one thing, Mel? A friend of mine is at such a low ebb that she tried to take her own life. And I only found out about it last night, and I was speaking to her this morning. And like you said, all I could say to her was, I'm here for you. When you want to talk to me, talk to me. Is there anything else I can do to help her?
You know, the important thing is that, you know, when people commit suicide, the karmic imprints on the wheel of life have become a bit much for them. Okay, they're not able to look at their lives in any way because they can't face it in any way. They also feel, which we'll talk about later, like they are a victim of circumstances, like so many things have happened. And like God's done it to them, people have done it to them, families have let them down, everybody's let them down. And they will take their own lives on that account. Now, that is one of the most deluded perceptions you can ever have. Die. You know, that's one of the most deluded perceptions, that if I take my life, there are going to be angels and beautiful music there for me. Okay. And when people come to me and they say they want to take their own life, first I give them a little bit of compassion, a little bit of, I know that they're feeling terrible, but I do tell them in no uncertain terms, if you think that your karma is bad now, you ain't
Right. Yeah.
getting it out of the body. Because at least when you're in the body, you can hide from a whole lot of things that are in you. But when you go into the bardos, you're definitely not going to wake up in the light. You're going to wake up in the bardo of becoming, where your karmic imprints are in front of you once again. And then, as I was saying the other night, because you've hurt a lot of people by taking your life, you actually are going to have extra burdens when you go into the next life, because the karmic imprints are now deeper because of taking away your precious birth opportunity. So I think that what you could say to her, not what I've said now, that would not be helpful to her in this state, but I think what you could say to her is, you know, I've been learning a lot about life and about why we suffer. And you know what? Maybe it would be a good idea. I'm so happy to go through it with you, a lot of the things that you're feeling suffer. And let's try and see if maybe a little bit of a change of attitude in what you're going through, because we look at it over lots of lifetimes, not just this one. So even though it feels unbearable now, there is so much you can learn. And maybe, like you do, dish out to a whole lot of people the talks and everything. So maybe for these karmic imprints or the purpose of life, you could say, would you like to listen to it? Would it help you? Would you, anything like that? I think there's so much that you can do, just being yourself, your own dedicated self. You don't have to be an expert, just talking, allowing that conversation from your higher self to go through to that person is very helpful, apart from doing things for them and being there for them, you know, which is very important.
Thank you.
Definitely. And you can offer her the talks. Say maybe if you listen to the purpose of life or the karmic imprints, maybe you could understand that well. Offer her. Just give it to her.
Yeah.
That's how you can help her.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, let's just do a little meditation, and then let's talk about the imprint of coronavirus and all the other things I want to do for you. But just come to this moment. And as I said, oh, shame, Herbie, okay, we'll see you soon. As I said, just come to this present moment. Your spinal column is straight. Your legs are one in front of another. If you're in a cross-legged or a lotus or half lotus, your hands are on your lap, right over left with the thumbs touching. Your chin's a little bit tucked in. Your eyes are open. Your tongue's at the top of your palate. Just to come for 5 minutes to this beautiful, beautiful state. What's beautiful about it? Because everything in your whole life is a perfect opportunity, open portal to unity with your true nature. Every bit of suffering is a great opportunity. And if we bring ourselves to the present tense, it's fresh. The most important thing of the present tense is it's fresh. Don't clutch onto the fresh moment. Just let it be and go on to the next fresh moment. The past is gone. There's not much you can do about the past, and the future hasn't been made. Your future might be one in service if you can come to your present moment. So the most important thing in calm abiding is to allow everything, to know there isn't one little thing in your life that is not there as a teaching, as an opportunity, as something which is going to help us to clear the Alaya consciousness of all its imprints, its habits, of the duality, of splitting off from everything. This is this beautiful, precious moment. And we breathe in and out, and in and out. Breath, our most beautiful condition on this earth plane, on this planet, the air we breathe. Just breathe it in because all of you are able to. Some people can't, they're on oxygen. Breathe it in and out, and in and out. Take in the life force while you are sitting there. And all the other things, the problems, the feelings, the distractions, everything, just let them be, give them space, and allow your mind to be open, spacious, luminous, have clarity, and knowing that intrinsic awareness. Every time you sit down, that's what you do. I was having lunch with someone yesterday who said to me, "Look, Melanie, I can't meditate. Thoughts just keep coming." And I go, "So what?" The thoughts, as we've just seen, with the essence, nature, and unlimited energy. Your thoughts and your feelings are the nature of the essence. Absolutely pure if we just let them be. They just come back to their original essence. If we pick them up, hold them, dissect them, plan what we're going to do, we block out the spontaneous awareness. So we just let all the thoughts be, knowing that none of them have solidity and all of them will just go back to the essence. If we leave them and we bring ourselves back to the breath, we're just developing beautiful awareness, not to be distracted, to just allow and allow the spaciousness of your life. And right now, allow yourself to think how perfect everything is in your life, even though it's painful, even though it's sore, even though it isn't everything you want, even though there are people dying around us. It's all perfect when we come to that awareness. Just do that a couple of times a day, and your intrinsic awareness, your rikpa, your pure presence will start to come flower out like you feed a little plant, just giving yourself the time to let it all be. And I picked up the paper, I think it was on Saturday, and I loved the story. I think it's such a beautiful story. I'll just tell it quickly. In India, in our poor beloved India, when Indian auto rickshaw driver Mohammed Javed Khan saw people carrying their coronavirus-stricken parents to hospitals on their backs as they were too poor to afford an ambulance, he knew he had to help. Khan, a 34-year-old driver in the central Indian city of Bhopal, sold his wife's jewelry and converted his three-wheeled vehicle into a small ambulance, fitting it with an oxygen cylinder and oximeter to measure oxygen levels in the blood and a few other medical supplies. As India grapples with a harrowing COVID-19 crisis that has seen infections skyrocket and the healthcare system stretch, individuals like Khan have stepped forward to try and help their local communities. A critically ill patient cannot be brought to the hospital without oxygen. So I thought, why not turn my three-wheeler, and I know those three-wheelers, I've ridden in them so many times, into an ambulance. It's not as spacious as an ambulance, but it can surely save lives. I see young people struggling without oxygen, even when they call ambulances. The ambulances are charging 5,000 to 10,000 rupees. And how will a poor person afford this, especially during this pandemic when most people don't even have an income? A donor provided him with a cylinder and another with the oximeter. A doctor taught Khan how to use them. Many people have come forward to help me with donations and have requested me to continue driving around until the pandemic is over, he said. It's thanks to the help of so many people I'm able to do this, and I couldn't have done this on my own. And then it goes into the fact that the police, and Kasturi will back me up, and those of you that have been, went absolutely mad because he didn't have the right permit. If you haven't got the right permit, to carry things. So they were fining him for not having the right permit. And then social media cried out. This was one of the times when social media were really good. They cried out, and then they quickly issued him with a permit, and he carried on with his work. And I read this, when I read stories like this, I just cry, because I think to myself, there's so many people who've got so many hardships, but they're always willing to imprint on their karma something so beautiful and so small and simple, and yet help thousands of people. Now, what Taisitu said was, in terms of the karmic imprints of coronavirus, that coronavirus has been there for thousands of years, but we didn't see it. We're so busy destroying with weapons. We can make weapons, but not cures. We think we're advanced with a vaccine cure, but we really better doubt it. We don't know where it comes from because we haven't used the power of mind. We don't know where the virus comes from. People say, did it come from an animal? Where did it actually come from? Did animals give it to us? Was it in China? Was it always everywhere? And he says, we haven't used the power of mind, which is your actual developed nature of mind, to understand this. And this morning, when I was reading in the paper, I actually thought to myself, I saw that many, many people in India that have had the long-term effects of COVID are getting this fungus which causes blindness. Now, I know quite a few people have got real trouble with their eyes when they've had the long COVID. So if we look at the ideas of the karmic imprint, someone was asking me last time, well, it's the lungs, the breathing you can't take in life, the taste, which we have to ask ourselves, what are our tastes in life? What is in bad taste in our choices? And the smell. When will we learn to smell the roses? The smell and taste all go. And the long-term effects, the eyes, the kidneys, extreme fatigue, in fact, the whole body. Now, you know, if you look back at some of the pandemics in the past, like 100 years ago, whatever, some of them didn't affect the whole world. This has really affected the whole world everywhere, even in the countries that have blocked their borders, and so they're not actually showing it. And the bottom line of this collective karmic imprint that tugs on us is inner change in the whole world. We have to go beyond the physical world and access another part of our minds to do it. Like I was looking, I mentioned it last time, but I was looking at the religious gatherings in Nepal, in India, and in Israel. And I was thinking to myself, I mean, what lies at the base of these religious gatherings? Well, I can only put it like this. You can argue and tell me your thoughts, but I thought when people get together, when there's a virus, and they haven't thought about how the thousands of them are getting together without masks and things like that, and how it's going to spread, it can only be a thought of duality. Like I'm going to do my religion and God will look after me. Isn't it? That's how I work it out. Because people say, I'm going to do what I've been taught religiously. But I mean, if you could really talk to any religious enlightened person, they'd say, don't do that. Don't do that. At the beginning of the coronavirus, my domestic worker, you know, she said, I've got to go to church. That's where I've got to go. And our church is being, I said, don't go to church. I said, what I will do is I will provide you with all the things you need to make your own little church in your own room. And so I gave her candles and incense, and I had a beautiful statue of Mother Mary, which I gave to her, and all the things she needed. And I said, now go and sit in your room and pray. Do not go to church, because all it's going to do is spread the virus. Okay. And you know what? If you are believing in God, He's going to listen to your prayers wherever they are. You don't have to go where it's dangerous. Now, in Nepal, they also did that ceremony, you know, and Nepal is going the exact same way of India. And we in South Africa have got a couple of those that variant in South Africa. And I'm just praying that people will take heed and not, you know, and really just don't go and don't have big gatherings and don't have big weddings. I know about 4 people who are having weddings this year, and they're not small. Okay. And the wedding venues are saying we're going to provide everything. So what's the bottom line in terms of the coronavirus and the karmic imprints? Taisitu Rinpoche says this is the pointing time to retreat. This is the time you've got to go inwards. He's never had so much time for himself, not outer. And he says, as human beings, we are responsible for causing the imprint of the pandemic, our own doing. Are we just busy going back to the normal external life rather than the internal life? Now, the Karmapa said, turning our attention to the air we breathe, the most basic condition for our life on this planet, the air we breathe, we see that we cannot be separated from our physical environment. Even if we could manage for some time without food or clothing, we cannot survive more than a few minutes without oxygen. A vast number of conditions need to come together to yield the uninterrupted supply of oxygen that is indispensable to keep us alive, yet we ourselves make no conscious effort to bring those conditions about. Contemplating this basic fact can spark a sense of wonder and gratitude towards the planet itself. And then Jaltsa Rinpoche, one of his very important heart sons, wrote this, an important message last year about the causes of diseases. He said, the Bhagavan Buddha proclaimed that in the future, because of non-virtuous actions, those are your negative karmic imprints of beings in the world, such as killing animals, cruelty, killing humans, okay, and so forth, many contagious diseases will arise. Further, Guru Rinpoche made prophecies in the Chronicles of Padma and other places saying that beings of the future will not take heed of action and result and will thus engage in many misdeeds like taking lives and telling lies. This will result in the arising of many illnesses and epidemics. And as these prophecies state, we can see that these are prevalent today. He said, when we harm life, that is the cause, the imprint for the arising of illnesses. So if you look, I won't go further with that, but if you look at everything in the world right now, okay, it is that the negative, the habitual negative karmic imprints that are common to millions of beings on this planet, okay? There are also millions of beings that are very compassionate and very caring and really want to counterbalance this horrific pandemic. But the causes are not caring for the planet, Mother Earth, cruelty to animal life, not caring for our animal life, okay, Luz? Selfishness, me and mine, ego and our greed, power-hungry leaders based on ego, right-wing lies, conspiracy theories, lack of compassion, all create a mental inner virus which eventually manifests physically, the age of degeneration. So it all starts with the mental imprints, the way we think, the way we behave, and then it moves into the body. And what can we as individuals do? Of course, to help in every way, like my rickshaw story, but make a shift from the way the human mind responds to everything, to the nature of mind, which automatically, spontaneously has the opposite of all these things. Now, it's very, very important that we look at that, because I want to just say to you, I want to give you that beautiful story. Some of you might have heard it. I've just got to get to it. I've got so many things here. Of that beautiful Holocaust story, which I think is how we can use our minds in many ways. So what happened was, this was the letter, some of you might have heard it, of a 98-year-old Holocaust survivor who wrote an open letter to a Pretoria woman following a series of alleged anti-Semitic posts. So this Simon Creel, 28, allegedly wrote that there's a special place in hell for Jews and that Hitler was innocent of the Holocaust. Now, she was being sued by the Jewish Board of Deputies, which to me, this suing business is just, you have to look at what, you have to look at the mirror in many, many, many cases. But this Ella Blumenthal wrote a letter to this Simon Creel, which for me shows how you can use your higher part, how you can use your nature of mind to respond. Now, I haven't read you the attacks she wrote, but the attacks had 4-letter words right through them about Jews and that the Holocaust never happened and all of this kind of thing. So there could have been all the suings and mewings and doings and everything, but that doesn't resolve. This is what happened. She was liberated from the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp at the end of World War II in 1945. She was very, very saddened by Creel's comments. And this is what she wrote to her. Dear Simone, I was so saddened to hear your comments. Saddened because I was about your age in 1945 when I was liberated from that pit of hell they call Bergen-Belsen. I had lost everything that I ever had. I had lost almost everyone that I ever loved. I, like millions of others, had fallen victim to the vicious propaganda machine the Nazis relied on to advance their evil agenda. Today, they call propaganda fake news, but it's actually the same thing and is no less virulent or dangerous. Simon, the link you saw was fake news. It was a lie. I know this because I lived the truth and I've carried it with me in my heart for more than 7 decades. You see, Simon, you can never forget what I saw, what I endured, and what I survived. I am sad because you, like me, you too were a victim of lies that seek to breed hatred and disgust, lies that seek to divide us and make us fearful of one another. And I'm also angry, not at you, but at those who still seek to make others the victim of their own fear. I am, Simon, I am 98 years old. And if I've learned one thing, it is that to live as a victim of fear is to live in pain. I do not wish this on you any more than I wish it on myself. I would love to meet with you when circumstances permit. Maybe I will tell you my story and you will tell me yours. I know we will learn that far more unites us than divides us. And maybe together, Simon, we will find a way to shine light into our fractured world. I cry when I read it. I send you my love, Ella Blumenthal. It's such a beautiful, beautiful story, don't you think? I mean, it really is a beautiful story, and it's really is very important, because this is what I'm talking about changing the wheel of life. Okay, when we have that consciousness, and let's just do a little bit on that, then I'll open to you. Okay, when we look at the wheel of life, it's relative. Okay, by examining the wheel of life briefly, we can actually get an idea of how karmic imprints were the cause of our situations. Okay, the situations we've been born into, and how we imprint again in this life, new and repetitive imprints. So in brief, there are 12 links. Okay, don't put it on now, Bern, because I want them to just get it from me very easily. The first 2, which are vital to your karmic imprints, your own, are called ignorance and volitional action. So in other words, ignoring the truth, telling yourself the deluded lies, ignoring that you have a Buddha nature, plus how you acted, your volitional action, okay? Those 2 lead to our rebirth consciousness, what impels us, the impelling consciousness that impels us into the rebirth. Okay, what is the rebirth consciousness? It's your name, it's your family, it's your form. I'm not interested in every single detail. I just want you to get the idea, okay? It is your present karma, what you were born into. Every day of my life, I hear people say, I shouldn't have been in that family. Everything that I was, that family wasn't. Everything I understood, that family couldn't give me. Well, that's why it was the perfect family, because they were your imprints. Your ignorance and volitional action caused the rebirth consciousness and the impelled consciousness, the impelled result of your consciousness. That's the family you've been born into. If you're born into a beautiful family that gives you everything, then you really have created very important imprints, and you don't want them, you want those to be giving you the opportunity to really understand who you are. But what is important is all the difficulties that we have with our body, speech, and mind, with our families, with our form, are all already in place by our creation of them. And then, so that is past karma, ignorance and volitional action, present karmic imprints, family forms, etc., how you are, the present karma coming from the past, going into creating the future karma. This is what is so important if you can really understand it. Now it goes like this. feelings. Now, when you have feelings, I hate this life, I hate my family, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. When you have the feelings then become the second thing, which is craving and attachment. So when you've got negative feelings about what your circumstances are that you've created, then you've got craving and attachment. Now, the craving and attachment leads to the third thing, which is grasping. So now you're craving. I want people to love me. I can't get enough. I want to be wealthy. We were so poor. Becomes grasping. I'm grasping onto everything. And the last of those four is called becoming. Now think of that. You then become. If your feelings were like Ella Blumenthal, this has happened to me. It's so painful. I lost everything. I went into this because of Nazi propaganda. But clearly in her 98 years, she's looked in the mirror, hopefully, and said, how come I was there? How come some people got out in time and I was there? Okay, that had to be something you created, that you were there, or you didn't listen to, or it's a mirror for you to learn something of yourself, as evil as it is. Okay, and then the becoming, if you just look at the afterlife stuff, the last bardo in the afterlife is called the bardo of becoming. What will I become? Will I become resentful, bitter, angry, sad? What will I become? And then those four, here is where the tug of war gets played out. Because can we stop ourselves from craving, even if we crave, from understanding it and not going into grasping and becoming? Actually saying, because this has happened to me, I need to do more for everybody. Okay? And then, so what the Buddha taught was, if after the feelings come and they start going into craving, you use your beautiful nature of mind to wake up and understand that this has all happened to you for a very important reason of your own creation. Okay, then you change it. You change the grasping and becoming, and you become something of great service and great benefit to every being on this planet, and writing things and helping people. But if not, the last bardo is called the bardo of becoming. Who am I going to become? And that leads to the last two imprints, which are rebirth with sickness, old age, and death. So the whole story starts all over again. That's why it's called samsara. That's why it's called the relative wheel of life. That's why it's called interdependent. No matter how many times you learn this, a lot of you, I did a lot of wheel of life a year or two ago, but you can learn it again and again and again and again, because you could draw something out of it all the time. It is our choice to recognize, know who we are. This wheel that I'm going through, even if it's got good karmic circumstances, please let me not be attached to it. Let me actually allow it. Let me allow it to be, and let me step off the wheel by waking up to who I am when that tug of war plays out between the the negative imprints and your true nature of mind. You begin to look at your true nature of mind. And that's how you get off the wheel of life. Because there is a way to get off it. Because some of these masters, even if they go through terrible, terrible things, okay, they understand that this is just an opportunity of stuff they themselves have created. Now, I had lots of beautiful stories for you. I can't do them, but you know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to open just for 2 minutes for some questions, and then I'll stay behind. Just let me give you this so that you've got it for next time. So if we're looking at the 3 things that we have to do, number 1, and I'll go into them in more depth next time. First thing with the working with the karmic imprints, learn the lesson, especially of negative karmic repetitive imprints. So for example, if you've got a lot of people who make you feel insignificant and keep on hurting and harming you, that is so important to look at. It comes from an imprint of pride where you look down on people. So the work is to really work on yourself and not look down on people anymore, to clear that imprint. Or people who've never got money or never got income and really have lack of material things. That comes from an imprint of a lack of generosity. Okay, could not necessarily even be in money, might have been generosity with sharing everything in your life, helping, serving, whatever. Then you've got to do more giving. Sometimes when people who haven't got money say to me, but I haven't got any to give, I go, money's not the only thing. Look at that story of Brian Adams. He never had 2 beans to put together. She had a little restaurant, tiny job. But look at how it came round. Understand that. The second point is think and act with conscious intention. So no, look in the mirror and work with those karmic. We'll do that next time, everybody. And the third one, which we'll do next time as well, is sorry, I've just got to get there. Think and act with conscious intention, which we'll talk about a lot more next time. We'll go on to other things as well. And 3, carry out all the practices to recognize your awakened nature, which has knowing, purity, spontaneous qualities, always for the benefit of all beings. And understand that these circumstances, even though they make you suffer, are giving you a most wonderful opportunity to purify your relative karmic tapestry. And it is only relative. It is only a dream being played out. And I want to teach you next time about how these impure characteristics can be liberated by themselves, which is really important. And so I think, without giving you any more stuff, because I've filled your minds and everything, just let me give you 2 minutes. We'll go to 25 to, if any of you have to go, please do, and then we'll dedicate, and then I'll stay, because people might really have. You know, I keep thinking that I've said all the things I have to say, but I've got masses of things still to say on the subject. So anyone comment? Robin McIntosh, do you want to comment?
Yeah, just a quick thing. Maybe you told me before, and maybe it's just reaffirming, but you said something just now. You said maybe it had to happen so that you could find your way and improve yourself, and to contrast to that, it has happened now. Now use the opportunity to do the same. So the question to ask is, when you've lost someone, is it a case of, well, it happened, it is what it is, now I must make the best of it, or it happened in order for me to do that, and if I miss out on that opportunity to do it, in which case that's more not fatalistic, but it's more kind of in the cards. And that's what I've battled a little bit, as I sometimes think I get it, and then I kind of hop out of it again.
Yeah, but you know what? Because I've always said to you, because you lost your child about 4 months ago. Now ask her story. Ask her where she was after 4 months. Ask Patricia where she was after 4 months. All the people that are here that have actually lost children. I mean, where are you? You see, Both of those answers answer your question. But the first one, the way you put it, is a little bit like, to me, when you have the death of a child, it's very important, something as tragic as that, it's very important to actually allow yourself to go through all the ups and downs for as long as you need to, as long as you need to. And I think you quite hard on yourself, although better. And I think that, so I think the way you asked the first question was a little bit callous. Are you supposed to learn out of it and everything? The most important thing is that when you look at these karmic imprints, the causes and conditions are multitudinous. It's very important. So when parents think, what did I do? You know, what did I do to lose these children? That's not it. It's not to go like that. The question is rather to ask yourself, this came about, I don't understand right now. I will understand in the future much better. I can't ask myself to understand right now. It's too painful. But in the future, I will understand. And yes, it is, so that you can fly on your journey eventually. But it takes a long time. When did you, and Patricia also lost a child, you know, many years ago. And it's really difficult. It takes a lot of years. And I think you're too hard on yourself. But it's really important to understand that when we look at the loss of children in our lives, as Marpa said, that's the biggest illusion, the most painful illusion, when he lost his son. And he was an absolute master when he lost his son. And he said, it's the most, they said, why are you crying? And he said, it's the most painful illusion you could ever go through. Okay. It is like that. But when you put your causes and conditions together, it is so amazing for me to watch the people that have really gone through tragic bereavement, how they grow and how they open up to the world and how they realize it wasn't the death that they caused. Maybe the death was a beautiful thing, because maybe that child only needed to come for a couple of years and then go. You know, we don't know what the karma of that particular child was. But the point of the matter is to use it eventually to expand and to go to your true nature is for sure what it's about. But it's too soon for you to get there. You can get there a little bit, and you're trying to, but it takes a long time, Rob. It takes a long time. It's so painful, really, really. So hang in there. I'll give you a chance. So anybody who really wants to ask anything or say, I will stay for a little while, and let's let the people, because a few people have really had to leave. Let's just do our dedication burn, and then I'll stay for a bit if people want to ask or question. And then we're going to go on next time. I'll take it maybe a little further than the karmic imprints next time. So let's just dedicate for all the suffering people. And oh my goodness, are there a lot? Thousands and thousands and millions of suffering people, the whole world. And we really do our prayers for them. Doesn't matter, Bern, if you haven't got it. Okay. So let's just do it in English so we know what we're doing for the dedication. We dedicate for all of those who are really suffering. Through the virtue of this goodness, may I obtain omniscience and overcome all adversity, thereupon liberating beings, and that's your wheel of life, from the ocean of existence, the relative life, which is rocked by the waves of birth, aging, sickness, and death. Sonam die tamje zipane topne nepe dranam pamshene jegana chi bala trupaye sipe sole doa do warsho. Just stop the recording.